I'm Brad King, and this is Stories in Steel. On this episode, we sit down with racer builder Steve Watt and find out what makes him tick. Growing up next door to the famed San Jose Mile racetrack, the idea of speed and competition was burned into Steve's mind at an early age. As he grew, he was able to mentor some of the brightest minds in racing. This is his story. We're in Ventura today, sitting down with Steve Watt, who's been a huge part of land speed racing, right, with one of the most iconic cars out there. So you were talking earlier. You grew up north, and across the street from a flat track at the fairgrounds. So what's the story? What's the story with that? How did that?
So my parents immigrated from England. They went to Canada, and then in '61 they came to San Jose. So we got an apartment. My brother was born, and I was born in '63, and we lived in a single wide trailer till I was probably 10 or 11 years old in a trailer park. So as we were growing up, I mean, my dad worked and he was a tool and die maker. My mom worked at Greyhound. Her job was to find all the lost baggage, and she did that. And as we grew up, we had mini bikes, typical kid stuff, go-karts. And trailer park was pretty fun. We had a lot of friends there. I still have to this day. I mean, we had a reunion not long ago last year, so it was pretty cool. But, you know, all the kids would play in the trailer park, and we didn't have no yard, so our fairgrounds was our yard. So we played football over there, and, you know, we'd be playing football, and we'd hear this something go by. We had no idea what it was, so we all ran over there, got on the flag stand, and, you know, it's a big, huge racetrack. So this guy comes by on this Harley, and he goes by, and we're all yelling, and pretty soon he comes by the next time, does a big wheelie, gives us a peace sign, and he pulls in down at the other end of the grandstand. So we all run over there, and all the newspapers and all the people were there. And come to find out, it was Mark Brailsford, and he was riding for Factory Harley, and he always had chicks around. So the San Jose Mercury News was there, so they actually had us stand behind him, and all the kids from the trailer park were there with their, you know, yelling.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so they did a thing. It was like on a Wednesday for the newspaper for the Sunday. They had a mile on that Sunday. So
was the hook set on that one?
Oh, it was deep. It was deep. And then, you know, after that, we'd be in our elementary school was the same fence. Our back fence was the fence of the turn 4 of the mile. So as we figured out that noise meant something's going on, we'd be in class and hear stuff, and we're like, okay, we're like after school, we're
out of here,
under the fence, through the thing, and sure enough, it was like pretty soon we went up to the mile since probably 72 till it closed in 90 something. So that's what hooked us on the whole bike thing. I mean, and to this day, I think some of my friends from the trailer park came to Sacramento a couple of years ago, so they follow everything we do. So it's kind of cool.
I mean, you're doing the car stuff now, but has motorcycles been more your thing?
No,
more part
it
of your
started
life,
out that we couldn't drive, so we had to ride bikes till we got our licenses.
Okay.
So I worked for a guy named John Silverbauer when I was a junior in high school, and I had an XT500 I could ride because I had a permit at 15 and a half. And he was the guy that built all the gas tanks and seats for the flat trackers. So his son, John Jr., and I were best friends. We played trumpets in 3rd grade together, right? So as we got together, we'd have dinner at each other's houses, and his dad then had a fiberglass shop in the backyard. So and that was my first job, was working for him in the fiberglass shop. And as we got to, you know, like Neil Keane and Sammy Tanner and all, I see all these people, Star Racer and Shell and all this stuff. Well, I would ship boxes out with all their addresses on it all the time. So I knew exactly who all they were. So that was 77, I think. So 78, 79, all of a sudden, this bus shows up with these Hondas in it. And we had to make the seats for the Hondas, which was the very first Honda flat track team with the CX500. I think Haney and I think Spencer rode the first one.
And you were right in the middle of it.
Oh, I built the wood buck that we made. So you had to build everything out of wood, then you painted it, polished it, sanded it, and then you made a plug, and then you made the mold off the plug. So racing has been part of your life from the very beginning. So I know the Virago thing, when Jimbo Felice was sponsored by our shop. So his dad would come all the time and to the shop and hang out. And when Mert Law and Kenny Roberts started that Roberts Rawwell, they had a Harley and then they did a Virago V-twin Yamaha that was like horrendous. But the tank, Mert brought the tank as a piece of foam on like, I want to say Thursday. And it was just a carved out piece of foam. So between John and I worked 12 hours, he worked 12 hours, and we got the thing till we could make a plug out of it, then we could make a mold out of it, then we could make a part out of it, and then we had a tank. I think John delivered it on Friday night or Saturday morning, and he rode it that Sunday.
Still smelling like resin and paint.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was kind of a fun time. It was like, and that was always there, and I got to meet Sammy Tanner again later. He was helping a girl, Courtney Crone, who drove one of my sprint cars at Paris. So Sammy would come and help her all the time, and we got to talking, and pretty soon we backed up to the 70s, and sure enough, it was.
Obviously, we're in Southern California now, so how did it evolve into where you are now? You were up there.
Yeah, I worked there, and then I worked for a guy named Dean Morrow, we had a great time. Dean taught me a lot. And we built pipes and did a lot of stuff for Rocky Cycles. We did a lot of ATV stuff. We did a lot of the pipe stamping. That was the very first part of stamping pipes. We did a lot of stuff for Bassani, like the 3-wheeler 250 pipes, stuff like that. We made all the stamp ties there at Dean's. And I went from there. I worked there for a few years, and I worked for Kenny Roberts Yamaha when he came back from Europe. And his mechanic, Merle Vanderslice, was there, and a friend of mine, Tom Capriva, so we worked there for a few years. And I worked at tube bending was my trade, basically. So Mandro tube bending is what my trade was. So I went to work for a shop in Hayward called hydraulic tube bending. So I was there for quite a while, and then I think in '88 we were racing micros in Pennsylvania, and Craig Dillard and I went, and I took a leave of absence and never went back. So the last real job I had was probably 1988.
I'm out of here to go racing.
Yeah.
So you went all back east then to go racing.
Oh yeah, we'd take his dad had a '83 Pace Aero, and one of the first cell phones with a big cord on it. And he'd load us up, and we'd take a couple of guys from here in California. We'd go back there and race for 2 or 3 weeks and come back. And
so was Deb pretty mechanical? I mean, were you?
Oh yeah, he was an English tool and die maker. So we grew up where everything was perfect. So if your bed's not square to the wall, he wants to know why. If everything's in a perfect world with him. So, and my mom wasn't too far off. She was the same way. So growing up, you had a standard of probably more than most people would have. I mean, it's very, very English. I mean, they were pretty set in their ways, how they did things and what they did. And
so you kind of follow a little bit of Dad then. If it's got to be straight, you were already. But if you're doing mandrel bending, you're making corners to his straight. So
yeah, but it was all mil spec stuff. So the tolerances were all mil spec. I mean, it was pretty tight stuff.
When did you leave San Jose, that area? How did you end up down here?
Well, we ended up leaving in '91. Craig and I had a company where we were building micro sprint engines, and his father had a car restoration business. Gary Dillard was a huge influence on my fabrication skills of being able to clip a sprint car and not tell where he clipped it. And Craig and I and Jeff, his brother, we learned a lot and did a lot of stuff. We built our own cars and did a lot of stuff, and Gary helped us along. And we moved over to Oakdale and got a shop, got out of San Jose, and we went over there for a while, and I'd gotten married, and that really didn't work out. So in '94, I kind of was going through divorce, '94, '95, and I had a friend, Daryl Rogers, who lived down here, and he was a Max Fly golf guy, and he raced sprint cars at Ventura with a guy named Gary Howard. So he called me up and asked me if I wanted to come help him. So I came to Ventura one weekend, then it was another weekend, and I was waiting for him to call to go to the next weekend because it was super nice here. So I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if you could find a place to work down there that you could actually and live there?
So you liked it here when you came?
Oh yeah, I liked it before I came. I had no idea that Duttweiler was here, Butler was here, Turbonetics was here, Magnuson, and I had no idea that anybody was here. So I got a job as a crew chief for Jordan Brothers in '96 and moved down here. I had a Toyota pickup and $100, and that was it. I had my mill and my lathe and all my equipment in storage up north, but I came down here with just
$100.
No, and I was, come to find out, I was $16,000 more in debt than I thought because my ex-wife ran up a credit card that I didn't know about. So, yeah, that's how I started here in Ventura in '96. So
who'd you go to work for here?
I went to work for Jordan Brothers as a crew chief, and that didn't really what's going to work out. As I got to town, guys like Duttweiler and Ron Butler all found out there was a guy that could build headers in town. So all of a sudden, they want me to build headers for them. So I did some at Jordan Brothers, but then as I left, Butler offered me a job, Duttweiler offered me a job. So at that point, I would work from 7 till 4 for Butler, and then drive down the hill, and from 5 to 9:30 to 10, I'd work for Duttweiler, building headers at night.
Wow.
For at least 8 or 9 years. Because Kenny would get a job in, like say a Pro Mod car, and you have to do headers, intercooler, wire it. They'd bring you a roller, and he'd supply the engine and then outfit everything. So it was sometimes till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'd take 2 days off from Butler's to stay at Duttweiler's to get the car ready because I had to leave on Thursday to be at a race on Saturday or whatever. It was one of them learning curves like you deal with Duttweiler. He's German and he's very set in his ways and he wants it done right. And it's like I'm just a product of my mentors.
You already had an advantage because you were used to making yourself do things right.
Yeah, I'm just a reflection of all the mentors I grew up with since I was 5 years old. I mean, that's where all of it comes from. There's no special thing inside of me that makes me better than anybody else. It's just the people that I grew up with and worked for just reflected on how I wanted to be.
And you were already part of engine building, so the Duttweiler thing was almost an easy transition.
Yeah, so in the end, I had my sprint car motors done, and it's like at the end, that was why don't you just do them here? And it's like, well, I didn't think just bring them over here. We can do them. Don't worry about it. So pretty soon, all of my motor programs for my sprint cars go through Duttweiler, and then pretty soon I'm doing the whole thing. You know, it's like he said, well, you can do that. Well, you can do that. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't want to build motors.
Not building motors.
So it's pretty. It was. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. To tell you the truth, I mean, all the stuff I've got to do and the people I got to meet, place I get to go. I mean,
what made you go on your own? I mean, you were doing headers for other people. So did you have other guys besides Kenny going, hey, I need?
Well, it evolved where like there was getting other people calling, so I couldn't run that many jobs through Duttweiler shop or Butler shop or because Butler he come from Shelby, so he was a protege of the whole Shelby crew. So Phil Remington was trained Butler.
Oh,
so wow. There you go, another guy that comes from anybody who knows Remington knows he's the same type of guy that wants everything right. And some of my crew guys, like Keith Colesback, he just left Hendrick. He's here working for me now, and he worked for Rem, and his brother worked for Rem. And it's like all of us have these mentors that were all up here when we were in high school and kids. And it's just funny how we all ended up together on this car, because I would say 90% of the guys that work on this car are sprint car guys.
You have another business doing shock dynos.
Oh yeah.
So we kind of got ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we skipped that over a little bit.
So how did that come to be? I mean, you were here was that something you were messing with when you were up north, or is that something you started? It all comes from
the dirt sprint car, micro midget sprint car thing, where we were racing micros at Ventura, or at Stockton, and I reached over one night to check the chain, and I burnt my hand on the shock. It was a steel twin tube Carrera shock, and I burnt my forearm, and it blistered like right there on the spot. That's awful hot for a shock. So then that started it. So then 3-4 years later, I go to a trade show at PRI and I have a shock with me, and I said, I wonder if, because I started learning about shock dynos and I learned how expensive they were, and it's like, there's no way in the world I could afford one. So I went there and I went to every different shock dyno manufacturer and had them test the shock. At that time, they were super expensive. I mean, there's no way I could afford them. They're like 15 or 16 grand or something. So at that point, I started messing around with a friend of mine, Rob Kershaw, had a reverse osmosis water business. So they dealt with pumps and gear drives and all that stuff. So we built a kind of a shock dyno testing thing that just it didn't take data, but it took force and speed. So we knew what we had. So as we used that, we started to learn more about the shock thing and decided that a lot of the stuff that we got wasn't what we thought it was. So then it evolved into building a computer-controlled machine. And then I took it one step further and just made it very, very simple. So the guy that wrote the software, Ted Williams, wrote the software for Digilog, which was Duttweiler's engine dyno. So he's in the engine dyno room writing software. I'm in the shop building headers. And I had borrowed this Rohrig dyno from Kading Performance up north, Brian and Brent. And I had it in my shop. I didn't know how to turn it on. I'm not a computer guy. So I get Ted. I said, hey, can you write software for shock dyno? He's like, what the hell is a shock dyno? I said, I got one at my shop, but I don't know how to run it.
I don't know what it is.
So he gets in there and he starts working on it and he figures out how to run it. He's like, man, it's a lot of work to do this thing. I said, man, can you make it simple? And I got a piece of paper and I drew, I want the numbers here, I want the graphs here, and I want it all point and click, and I don't want to have to type. He says, really? I said, exactly.
Don't want to type.
Yeah, so I don't know how to type. So I didn't know how to turn a computer on then. So he gets this done and we start doing it. We go to this trade show probably in 2002 or 3 or something. And I think I sold 8 or 9 of them. It's like the first one, like we were at my friend Scooter Ellis's house and I'm in a Ford Taurus rental car and we go set it up and the thing don't work. So we go back to Scooter's house. This is Wednesday night. The show starts Thursday. Wednesday night we're at Scooter's house in his driveway. We're gonna do this and get out of the garage. I'm on the phone back to California with all the guys, and this thing's got so much electronics on it. It's in this thing, and you have to push the cover back on and put the screws in. There's so much wiring and junk inside of it. So we finally get it running at like 2 a.m. So I go back to the hotel, get up, put it in the booth first thing and run it. And we sell, 5 or 6 or 7 of them. So I call back and say, hey, how the hell are we going to build these things? So he's like, I don't know. But as we got home, we had to figure out all the data acquisition stuff we wanted to use and what company and all that stuff. So it was quite the experience.
Did you still stick with your, I don't want to type anything? Was it still
point and click? All you got to type is a name and a serial number, and that's it. If I could build a machine that a guy that didn't know how to run a computer could run, it would be perfect. So
right.
90% of the time I sell a machine, number one is I answer the phone. Number two is it's simple to use.
The motorcycle thing is obviously part of your life anyway with the flat track stuff.
Yeah,
so you're not racing the sprint cars anymore. You stopped doing that.
Yeah, I sold that probably 3 or 4 years ago. In California, the non-wing stuff started to die out, the 360 stuff. As that started to dwindle the car counts and the organization started to get kind of weird, and I could see the writing on the wall. So I started running some wing stuff, and that was pretty good, but it was a little out of my range of what I could do. And so I sold all of my stuff probably within a year and a half. We were at Bonneville, I want to say, probably 6 years ago. And of course, all the guys on our land speed team are sprint car guys. So Saturday night, what do? We watch the Knoxville Nationals. So we have a hotel room full of people. So Al Lamb, Dallas Honda, Mike Lozano, Colesback Brothers, all my guys, we're all sitting in a hotel room. And we decided we're going to go flat track racing. So that's how it started.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
Let's go and do flat track.
Yeah, because I just turned 60 and I'm like, man, there's a lot of things I want to do. And it's like I'm on the backside of this deal. So I got more behind me than I got in front of me. So I really want to do this before I die. So I started and Al and I looked for a Honda motor, and AFT wouldn't let us build one like Indian did. They said, absolutely not. You have to run production. So we searched high and low for some Honda motor we could run, and there just wasn't anything available. So I had some friends here in town, John Rains, who's a land speed guy, and Russell Case, he's a guy up in Placerville who'd been a part of James Monaco's flat track thing. We got together and they each bought a Harley and I bought a Harley. So we started with the XG Harleys because we can buy them right for Vance and Hines and go race them. Boom, instant team. So we did that for like a year and a half. So I got a hauler. So I told Al, I said, look, he was kind of behind the scenes. We were still working on our program. So I got a hauler, got all the equipment, got everything. So we could switch brands like anything, just get rid of Hondas, put Hondas in, but we still needed a haul. We still needed to buy all that stuff. So I got all that stuff situated and got it all done. And then we started just last year, they came out with a Honda motor that was something we could race. And they were only available in New Zealand at the time. So we had bought 5 bikes in New Zealand and had them taken apart and air freighted over. And
All right.
so that's the motor package we have. So we got Rick Howerton to build us some frames and everything started. I mean, we built 4 bikes in probably 12 days right before Daytona because everything came together at the last minute. So, I mean, it's not any cheaper than running a sprint car, I'll tell you that. I mean, it's the travel and the upkeep and it's just
two less tires.
I just traded arms with a needle is all I did. Didn't change anything.
Traded arms with a needle.
It's still the same drug. It's still the same thing. It's just a different 2 wheels instead of 4.
And you're still doing Bonneville. When did Bonneville, I mean, holy smokes, you've been a busy guy. So when did Bonneville come into your
It started with, I tell you what, without Ron Main, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
So he ruined you.
He did.
Okay.
And he continues to ruin me. He came to me, I would never go to Bonneville because it was Knoxville time in August, even out here. I mean, it's race time for sprint cars. July, August, September, it's heavy sprint car stuff. And owning 3 or 4 sprint cars, you're racing sprint cars. So you don't have time to go to Bonneville. So one year I told my wife, I said, look, let's just go and see what it's like. So Ron, being Ron, gets us in the Montego Bay. We got a suite, super nice. My wife's all cool. We go out there VIP, right? So we go out there, and this is actually 2006. So this is the first year that George Poteet drives a Streamliner. So before that, he'd driven Roadsters, and George had cars, and Ron had got with George the year before, and then George was going to run a Streamliner. So he ran Echo Fire, and he went 320. I think we got an FI record. We went in Speed Week, and he got a record. Then we went back and got an FI record in September. And Ron had asked me, I got home and all that, and he asked me what I thought. And I said, it would be cool, but I mean, the guys, it's if you blow a motor up, they need to switch the motor now, not tomorrow. I said, oh yeah, I said, dude, you're only 7 days a year is your season. You don't get to come back next Saturday and do it again. It's these guys are old and they're getting older and they don't. He said, well, what do you think? I said, well, if I was more involved, I could consider coming back. So I get a phone call. He says, hey, would you mind taking care of the car? I'm like, sure. So he drops me off this car and says, hey, we got a new body coming. We got to lengthen it 5 feet here and 3 feet here, and it's going to be called Speed Demon. And we got a bunch of Mopar 4-cylinders coming. We got a Hemi and W9 Mopar 4-cylinders coming for Bonneville. I'm like, it's April. Well, yeah, Bonneville's in August. You got plenty of time. So here we go, right? So Duttweier's doing motors, so we have to build oil pans. We have to build our own. There's no parts for them. So everything we had to build everything. So we build intercool. I had, 5 or 6 guys I had come on and say, hey, look, we got to get this done. Just called in the troops and everybody was working on all different stuff. So we got it all done and went to Bonneville in 07 and ran pretty respectable. 8 was okay. 9 was the first year we got our hot rod trophy. 09. So
did you set any records before then, or was it just,
yeah, we had some records. They were I think we got the bar Formula One car FIA record. We beat that one, and then I think we got a couple of regular records, the F record or something. And then Duttweiler was working on this thing, and we were getting ready. One of the last runs we did, we were getting ready to go 420. I think we were about the 4 mile. We were on the numbers to probably go in the 420s, and it kicked the rod out of this thing something fierce. It blew the starter motor off, and we got to the end there, and Duttweiler was like, man, it's like, you think we can fit a V8 in this thing? I'm like, I don't know, man. We made a 300-inch small block Chevy and put it in there, and that's when we started to turn the wick up. We started with that, and we made a run on the hot rod trophy pretty, once Duttweiler got that V8 thing going, in 11, we actually went 462 miles an hour in 2011 with a 300-inch motor.
With a small block.
Yeah. But it was an FIA event, which back then, you can get a run at the 0 line. So it didn't matter where you started, you just get through a timed mile. So if it was the 5.5 to the 6.5 or the whatever time mile at an FI event, doesn't matter where you start. Where at Bonneville on the regular stuff we're running today, you start at 0 and you're done at the end of the 5. And that's all the distance you have. It all ended up with the V8 thing, and then the whole hot rod trophy thing started to add up, and pretty soon I think from 09 till 20, we just got it this year. 24.
So was that the goal more than the records?
No, it wasn't a goal in the beginning. It was like, if we're going to go that fast and we got the first hot rod trophy, it's like, well, that would be one of the goals if it presented itself. It wasn't something that we went there to get the hot rod trophy.
So how many times have you guys won the hot rod trophy?
This year it'll be 12.
Has anybody been close?
No. It's a full commitment to do a streamliner deal. It's not something you do part-time. I mean, we work on it from when we leave Bonneville to when we go back to Bonneville. So there's 365 days in a year. And when we come home, this car's sitting here. We basically hosed it off. It hasn't had the body off or cleaned or nothing because we can't do anything until we get all the trailers unloaded. And every single thing, the toolboxes, all the carts have to be jacked up, everything out of them, clean everything, oil it all down, put it all back together, and put it across the street in storage. Well, this is our 18th year of doing this car.
It's amazing.
So I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting here doing this.
So how many records have you been involved in Bonneville then? I mean, you started with the Ron thing and all the different cars you've been involved in.
Man, probably 16 to 20 range. The trophy shows up 9 months later and you find a spot.
I was just kind of curious how many.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the exact number. It's like what we did with the flat fire.
When you did the Jessel, so you drove the pickup truck? Is that what it was?
I drove
part of that?
pickup,
Did you do any work on that, or you just drove it?
No, I mean, Jessel said, hey, you got to come. Like, it was really weird. When Chris was driving it, we came back at a World Finals, and he brought his wife, and I brought my wife, so we came together, and we were going to go, because we just got done with Speed Week, we were going to go to Park City and hang out for the weekend, ride bikes and do whatever, just take a little vacation. So I show up with my wife, and he shows up, and Chris goes and does his deal and gets a record and gets done, and it's Wednesday, and the meet's till like Friday or something. And he says, "Hey, Biggie, you need to go do a bailout." What are you talking about? He said, "Well, you need to go drive the truck." My wife looks at me. She said, "Did you know?" I said, "I knew nothing about it. I mean, I just found out when you found out."
You're deceiving me.
No, I had no clue. I had no clue whatsoever. But Wayne said, "Do it." And so we go and I do the bailout, go out there, and there was like a 193 record, and I went like 198. So I got licensed up. So you got licensed up at Bonneville. So right. I think we started at noon. I didn't have a license at noon.
Just keep going loose.
So from noon at 4:30, I was in impound at 199.6.
You went through all your stuff from
noon till 4:30. I did all my licensing, was in impound at 199 on a 193 or 195 record. But when I went through the lights, I felt it nose over a little bit, and they said there was a puff of smoke, and I'm like, I think it heard it. So we get to impound, and sure enough, the number 2 or whatever, it wasn't hooked to the piston any longer. So I think the following year, we got done with all of our stuff by Thursday, and then he says, "Hey," George's son-in-law got his 200 hat. He was in a D-blown modified pickup. So it was a twin turbo, I think, D motor. So he got his record and was done, and we were done with the speed demon stuff, and Wayne's like, "Hey, you ready to go?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, we're going to run you in at ABCDE." So I said, "What do you mean?"
He doesn't give you much notice. It's like,
no, so he said, "We're going to take the lifters out, turn them around, we'll take this plug wire off, we'll do this and make it a 7-cylinder. So he says, "Okay, we're going to run E." So I went down there and went like 240, 241
with a dead hole.
Yeah. I didn't know the difference. I said, "It ran fine." He said, "It sounded fine." So we would go to impound and backed it up the next day.
We're gonna blow it up even more.
It was like the fastest 200 mile an hour I had, I think, ever. I mean,
so you got your,
like time wise.
You got your blue hat. I mean, your red hat.
Red
now.
hat, yeah.
You got the red one.
Yeah. So funny thing, I'm getting ready to get in the truck to do my backup run, and George comes over and says, "Hey, are you nervous?" I'm like, "What do you mean nervous? Aren't you nervous about going 240 miles an hour in a pickup truck?" I said, "Well, George," I said, "I'm not as nervous as when I'm sitting at the 5 mile waiting for you to come at 450 miles an hour not knowing what's going to happen. That makes me nervous. Driving this at 240 is nothing compared to that." And he didn't say a word. He just walked away. So it's a whole different nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's different. When you're driving, it's not that bad. It's the unknown. There's thousands of bolts on this thing. There's 15 people that work on it. There's everything in the world is against the odds for everything to go perfect. And you know that sitting in your truck at the 5 mile waiting for that thing to come at you. So you just hold your breath and listen for the numbers. And as the numbers keep increasing, you kind of know them by heart now. We know what we are.
2 and the 2 1/4.
If we're at the 2 1/4, we're 350 or better. At 2 1/4, it's going to go 420 or better, 440 or better. And as long as you don't see any smoke, it'll go by there and do whatever it's going to do, and hopefully there's no smoke.
Exit speed. That'll get him into impound. Holy moly, George.
We're basically professional problem solvers.
Is there any other goals in the future you want to go after besides Bonneville? Is there any other things you want to accomplish?
It's funny you say that. Because of the speed demon, a gentleman by the name of David Pilgrim wanted to do a Lakester, a diesel Lakester. And he talked to George, and George said, "Yeah, Steve could definitely do it. And he'll do a good job for you." So we had just built the Lakester this year for David Pilgrim, that black and orange one.
Right.
So right out of the trailer, they'd only let him run to the 3 mile. So the average between the 2 to the 3 went like 273. So we went right to impound.
Oh, man.
First run out of the trailer. So, we talked about formulas, and basically a 218, 220 inch wheelbase car, there's a formula for the 4-link and the instant center and all the stuff we do for, to make a car like this go. We've messed around with all that enough to where we could build a car and duplicate this. Basically, that car has duplicated this car, but the wheels are on the outside instead of the inside. But the same type of systems and the same type of everything that's on this car is on that car. So it did repeat itself, and that car is capable of 400.
So when it comes back out, it's going to be a threat then.
Well, yeah, it's got a little bit of stuff we need to do to it, but for the most part, I mean, it went down and everything. It worked as it's supposed to. We just got to fine tune the aero on it just a little bit. But
you got a 2-wheel project back behind this too.
Yeah, that's a project that's been a little extended. It's a streamliner motorcycle that Irv Kanemoto wants to do. And we got quite a bit down the road, and then he's got a lot of MotoGP buddies that are involved with it, so it makes it a little bit slow. Herb's been an idol of mine since I was a kid growing up in San Jose. If you had a cylinder on your motorcycle that Herb did, you're guaranteed to be the fast guy there.
Wow.
So he was a legend. I mean, he called me on the phone and said, "Hey, I don't know if you know who I am, but this is Herb Kenemoto, and I'm a big fan of yours. I follow the Speed Demon." I'm like, "Stop it right there. Hold the fort, Dan. Stop it." So I started talking to him, and we started talking. He become pretty good friend. He's come to some of our flat track races, and he's been helping me with our flat track bikes. And he was a big idol of mine growing up. He was really good. So
it's probably a little surreal sometimes when you sit there at the shop. You guys are talking. It's like, wow, this is weird.
Yeah, it is. And then I was sitting here one day, and I look out the back door, and Herb Kenemoto and Eddie Lawson are standing there. I'm like, holy crap. It's like that puts it into perspective.
It made you a little kid all over again.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So then I get a call from Dave Martin, who's a hot rod guy and motor enthusiast guy, and he'd run the Amber Award, I think, in 2019 with his hot rod. And he wants to build a new hot rod. So I've never built a hot rod. Never built a street car, never built any of that, but
right.
I'm gonna give it a shot.
There we go.
Yeah, so right here, sitting next to us he's got a supercharged Offie, like a 1968 Indy car, and we're gonna do like 4-wheel independent suspension. The whole project's about taking new technologies and new ways of building stuff and designing stuff and making it look old.
Okay.
So the first thing we did is we designed a lobster style brake that instead of a single piston, it's a 6-piston. So it stops and works.
That's kind of bitching.
And that was the first thing we did. So now I sold all my CNC stuff and bought modeling stuff. So 3D printers, 3D Magic, or all the software to do the scanning and turning it into prints and designing all of our own parts. So that's where Channing Hammond, which is Seth's son, he grew up in the shop building cars, and now he's doing SolidWorks, and he's doing all the design work on this Roadster.
How are you going to make all the pieces with all your CNC stuff being gone?
Well, CNC guys are easy to get. There's CNC shops everywhere. So
you can write the program and
we just send them a file.
Here. Okay.
So what that does is it speeds up the process. So the problem we have with most of the people that can afford to do this is time. You can't buy time.
Right.
So when they're 75 years old or 80 years old and they want a hot rod, they want it now. So my job is to turn it into now. So this thing has to be done in a year, not 3 or 4 years. So what it entails is taking us to be the core, and then what we do is we get our network of people, and everybody gets their part that they're going to do. So I have an aluminum guy do the aluminum stuff. I have a CNC guy do the CNC work. If he's not, there's different CNC shops. There's some guys that are better at turning, some guys are better at 5-axis stuff, some guys are 2-axis guys. So you use them accordingly. So you get all your jobs, all your pieces and parts designed and made, and then you make sure it all comes together within a year.
Wow, that's not a lot of time.
No. So that's why you have to have all your design stuff in-house. So you have the biggest, baddest computer, you have all the software and the guys to design, and then you can get most all of it done in a timely manner where, you take a guy's 80 years old, by the time he's 85, probably don't even want to drive it no more. So you've got to kind of keep that in perspective.
Right.
So it'll be fun. It's one of them jobs where it's like there's no limits. So anything we could think of that's super, super cool, and like looking at F1 independent suspension torsion bar stuff. But if we want to do it like that, we got to make it look like it came off a 50s Indy car or something. So it's all just a judgment.
So what kind of body? You guys knocking your own body out, or what?
It looks kind of like a 50s, 60s Indy car.
Okay.
Sleek, long nose on it, sleek tail.
That's a whole different animal.
Oh yeah.
AMBR stuff.
Yeah, but it's not so much. the Amber Award itself, it's like all the guys that are going to look at it, if they walk out there and say, that's the coolest car I've ever seen, that's more than some trophy or a check.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like the people that do it, that are mentors, that, you know, the builders that see stuff, that know how hard it is to make or how cool it is to do that. That means more than an award or a paycheck or anything like that.
Steve, thank you for sitting down with me.
No problem, anytime. It's been a pleasure.
Very nice.
Got to jog my memory a little bit. Some of that stuff got a little foggy.
Back in the Wayback Machine there. Instead of trying to introduce all the crew members on Stories in Steel, we figured it would be easier to show our audience a picture of us in action, and we turned it into a poster. Click on the link to purchase the complete set of one.